Today is May 19th, 2019, and we are in the Rosewood Care Center. My name is Sinjana Yarapathu, and I will be interviewing Richard Soderstrom for the Illinois Veterans History Project on behalf of the Moline Public Library. Richard Soderstrom was born on August 2nd, 1932, and is 85 years old. Also present here is Lauren Braw. Richard Soderstrom, I'd like to thank you for doing this for the Moline Public Library. It is an absolute honor to have you here.
Thank you.
So is it okay, do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
No.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask you your experience prior to the war. So where were you born?
Moline.
Moline, nice. So who were your parents?
Axel and Theresa.
What were their occupations?
My mother was a housewife.
Yeah.
My father was a draftsman at International Harvester in Farmall.
Yeah. Who were your siblings?
I have one sister.
What were their names? Or what was her name?
Karyn.
Mm-hmm.
Karen.
Did she also serve in the military?
No.
So what were you doing before you entered the service?
I was student, I guess.
Where did you go to high school at?
Moline High School.
When did you graduate?
August, no boy, now. I want to make sure I give you a record. When did I graduate from high school? 1950.
Mm-hmm. Did you graduate as a junior or a senior?
Oh, I graduated senior.
So I'm going to ask you now about your questions about your early days of service. So what branch of the military did you serve?
Army.
Army. So did you enlist or were you drafted?
I had enlisted. And I knew what was coming, so I anticipated it. Well, you know, when they're after you, you might as well go in and volunteer. But I enlisted, but quote unquote, I was. I knew what was coming.
Mm-hmm. So, what happened when you were departed for? How was boot camp like?
It was rough.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we'd crawl up the Rocky Mountains, and they were really rocky, and they made us crawl up on our, blood coming out of my elbows and knees. But that's the way it is. Mm-hmm. Take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember your drill instructors?
Sergeant Freeman, he was a psycho.
What made him psycho?
Yeah, and then screaming and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. He didn't bother me, but some of the guys he did.
Mm-hmm. Are you? I hear you make a lot of friends at boot camp. Are you still friends with the people you met at boot camp? Mm-hmm. Did you receive any specialized training?
Rifle.
Mm-hmm. How did you adapt to your military life?
Well, I just did. I tried the best I could, and there's no point in griping about it because that's the way it is. But on the rifle range, it was kind of tough. But what was the question again?
How did you adapt to military life?
Well, I adjusted to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just, it's not a picnic, believe me. It is not, it is not a lot of fun, I'll tell you that. But when you're in the Army, you do what they tell you to do and you shut your mouth. Mm-hmm. You better shut your mouth. Yeah. Otherwise, they'll really give you the business. What
was your physical regimen like in the Army?
What?
Your physical regimen?
It was at Fort. Well, most of the time I was at Fort Ord, California. Mm-hmm. O-R-D is how you spell Ord, California. That was most of the time.
Did you enjoy the barracks?
Pardon?
Did you enjoy being in the barracks? The barracks?
Did I what?
Did you enjoy living in the barracks?
Well, you get. I'm a Christian, and then you get a lot of profanity. And that's the way it is. As I said, I'm a Christian. I don't use profanity, but in the barracks you hear a lot of that. It's sad, but you it didn't change me a bit. I still don't swear, but that's the way it is.
Did you like the food during?
Yeah, I thought the food was all right.
What was your social life like?
Well, there's not much social life. I'd go up to San Francisco about once a month. That was kind of fun because I'd never been there before.
Do you have any other stories you'd like to share about your early days in the military?
No, I knew it was coming, and I made the best of it. There's no point in griping about it or crying, because that gets you more trouble. I tried to be a decent human being, and I still don't swear to this day. Because as I said, I'm a Christian, and Christians don't swear. But you get a lot of swearing in the military, and that's not only in the military. And I worked in a factory at Farmall, and you hear a lot of profanity. And as I said, I'm a Christian, and I don't use profanity because it's just, I guess that was my upbringing.
When did you serve your country?
Well, you want the years now, right?
You don't have to. You can guess it.
Well, it's hard to 57, 59.
Where did you serve at?
In Fort Ord, California, most of the time. I was also at Fort Carson, Colorado, some of the time.
Were you ever deported abroad?
No, California's, that's the furthest I've ever been away from home.
So what was your position in the Army?
I was a company clerk in a training company.
What did you do as a company clerk?
I handled all the paperwork, so to speak. I was that was my job, handling the paperwork. And I tried to keep as busy as I could. And I didn't complain. A lot of times soldiers go in the Army and all they do is gripe. But I didn't feel that was necessary. I was there and I made the best of it.
What was the disadvantage of your job? Was there any things you didn't like about being a company clerk?
I didn't like. No, well, it was hard. It was work, and I was busy, but I don't know. I did the best I could. I mean, there's no point in griping, because that makes it worse. And if you gripe, they'll really give it to you.
What was your favorite part about the job?
Oh, I met a lot of people from various parts of the country.
Do you still keep in touch with those people?
No.
What type of friendships did you make during your service?
Well, kind of casual. I try to get along with everybody. I mean, as I said, you hear a lot of profanity, and as I said, I'm a Christian, so I don't cuss, not even to this day, but there was a lot of profanity. I worked at Farmall for a while, and there's just much profanity there, whether you like it or not, but I'm a Christian, so that doesn't mean that I use profanity.
So how did you stay in touch with your family and friends back at home?
Letters.
What did you do for recreation when you were abroad, or when you were stationed in California?
Okay, would you say that again?
What did you do for recreation when you were stationed in California?
Oh, I went up to San Francisco
Mm,
and I went to some shows. I can't tell you about them because they were pretty risque, but I did because I enjoyed it. But I guess it's not unusual to go to burlesque shows, in which I do enjoy.
Is there any war stories you'd like to tell about your time you served in the Army?
No, I didn't get any awards. As I said, I did the best I could. I kept my mouth shut. That's important. There's no point in griping about it, because you start griping and then they'll really give it to you. But our SDI, the senior drill instructor, was what I call a psycho. I mean, he was screaming and yelling all the time, and you get used to it. And some of the, like we had some retarded children there, and they were kind of rough on them.
Would you, if you had the choice, would you continue your armed service? Like, would you do it again if you could?
Well, I'd do it again. I wanted to serve. I didn't want to be a draft dodger. I did the best I could, but it wasn't all fun and games, I assure you. No, well, you know, when you go in, you know that's going to happen. You do the best you can.
What was the most memorable part about serving your country?
Well, there's a sense of pride, you know. I served, and I'm glad I did. And would I do it all over again? Yes, I would, because I wanted to be a veteran, and I was a veteran.
So, what was coming home like? Where were you when the war ended?
I was at Fort Carson, Colorado.
What were you doing there?
I was a company clerk.
When you came home, what did your family do for you? Did they accept you?
Oh, not really. What was the question again?
So when you came home, how did your family react?
They just accepted me. I just have my mother and father are deceased. My sister is still living, and even to this day she's still living.
How did you return back home from Colorado?
Pardon?
How did you return back home from
Greyhound.
So, was it difficult for you to readjust to civilian life, or was it easy for you? How did you readjust to civilian life?
Well, I think I adjusted all right. Again, when you go in the military, it's no matter what they tell you, you do the best you can, and you shut your mouth. I mean, that's the main thing. There's no point in griping, because that makes it worse. I tried to do what I could, and my job was in administration, and I went to a clerk type of school, and then I guess that's about it.
When you returned back from war, what did you do after? Or from the Army?
I went back to college.
What did you study in college?
I became a teacher.
What grade did you teach?
High school.
What did you teach any specific subject?
English.
What grade did you teach?
I was a high school teacher.
So, what have you done since separating from the military?
Well, I've worked in I guess I worked.
What was the most memorable part about teaching?
I enjoyed it. It's not always. I didn't have to deal with hoodlums very much, but a little. I had some rowdy guys, and some were very nice. Others were quite mean.
So we're gonna just do like a small little reflection about your times in the Army. So how did your time in the Army affect your life?
Well, I wanted to do it. There's no doubt about it. I didn't want to be a draft dodger, and I wasn't. But I don't know. It's military service is not a picnic. No matter what somebody tells you, it can be pretty nasty. You listen to a lot of profanity, and as I said, I'm a Christian, so even to this day I don't use profanity. But I don't know. I think the best thing is you just do the best you can and shut your mouth. I mean, you don't want to try to buckle the whole system, because that gets you nowhere.
What drove you to join the Army after high school?
I guess being what caused me to join the Army? Well, I felt it was my duties as an American citizen. And although a lot of times people might laugh at that, and soldier, but you're a soldier and you do what you're told, and it's not all fun and games either. By a long shot, you know that you try to do the best you can, but it is not. It's not a game.
Were you influenced by your father to join the Army?
Was I what?
Were you influenced by your father to join the Army?
No, I that was all my own.
So, what are some life lessons you learned from your military service?
Oh, you learn to live with people, and some of them are nice, and others are SOBs. Really. Yeah, but some are nice, and you just do the best you can. And there's no point in crying all the time, because that just gets you in more trouble. But you learn to, I don't know, as I said, I'm a Christian, so I don't use profanity. But in the Army, you have a lot of profanity. And I worked at Farmall for a while before I went in, and you have profanity there. But it depends. As I said, I'm a Christian, so I don't use profanity, but a lot of people do. And that's their right. But that doesn't make anything any easier, as far as I'm concerned.
Were you able to pray freely when you were in the Army?
Was I what?
Were you able to pray freely and go towards the chapel when you were in the Army?
Yeah, I went to chapel on Sunday. We had a chapel near where I was stationed in Fort Ord, and I went to the chapel. They called it.
What was your experience like being a Christian in the Army? Did you enjoy it?
Well, I mean, as I said, I did not use profanity, and I still don't today. But a lot of people did, and such terms as MF, I won't tell you what that means, but yeah, I hope you don't know, but that's a term that's used quite often, and it's I live with it. I'm not saying I enjoy, but as I said, I've worked at Farmall, and the profanity there is just as severe. And at Frank's Laundry, I worked some time there too.
Were there many Christians?
Pardon?
Were there many Christians within your battalion?
I don't know. I didn't ask him. But if you are a Christian, you know that you're going to stand out because of the filthy language. But you just get used to it. But that doesn't mean that I have to participate in it. I try, even to this day, when I was at Farmall or at Frank's Foundry, there's a lot of profanity, and it's something you deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And some people don't, they accept it as normal life. It may be their home life, but my father, who's now deceased, I never heard him use a swear word ever.
How has your military service impacted your thoughts on war?
No.
Mm-hmm. So, for the future generations who'll hear this video and this interview, what is your advice to them?
I think it's every male should serve. I believe that, and I did serve. That's why I served, and I couldn't. I didn't want to go through life as a draft dodger. I just felt that was my duty, and I'm an American male, and I'm going to serve.
What is your advice towards females joining the Army?
Well, it's no easy job. The language is just as filthy with women there as there were with men. I mean, of course, that's true about wherever you go, but it's a test of your faith. And if you were raised a Christian and you shouldn't swear, that's it.
Is there anything you feel we haven't discussed that you would like to add to this interview?
No, you covered it.
Is there anything else that you want to say? A few final words?
No.
So I'd like to thank you for doing this interview. It was an absolute honor to talk to you, and I appreciate you, Richard. And thank you for your service, and thank you for this interview.
Thank you.